Our Zoom congregation up there, having so many members joining us this morning, as well as people on Facebook and other social media. Thank you very much for supporting our Eco Shabbat and our young people today. I'm delighted to welcome Mosaic Liberal, and we've got the chair of Mosaic Liberal with us today, as well as Rabbi Rachel Benjamin, as well as ELELS, too long to pronounce, and Rabbi Richard Jacobi, with the wonderful members of what is the East London and Essex Liberal Synagogue. Thank you very much. It's so nice. That's why I need colleagues, support to remember long names of our brotherly communities. And Nottingham Liberal Synagogue. I can see so many lovely faces on Zoom. It's so lovely to see you. So lovely to see you all. Welcome. And we start our Eco Shabbat morning service on page 117. 117, Shabbat morning service number 3. Please stand. May my prayer be acceptable to you, eternal God. In your great kindness, answer me with your saving truth. Please be seated. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. We continue with the morning blessings. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, bokeach ivrim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish harumim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, anoten layaf koach. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, amavir shena meinai, utnoma me'afapai. Baruch Shamar v'aya haolam baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. המהולל בפי עמו, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו. בשבחות ובזמירות נגדל לך ונמליכך מלכנו, יחיד חיי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות. And just before I will invite our children to do their first presentation, their readings, we would like to share with you the film. It's a 3-minute, 12-second film, which was made specially for Eco Shabbat by Rabbi Judith Rosenberry, who lives on the Isle of Skye off Scotland shore. And she'll be talking there about the conservation work they're doing on that island, which will pretty much explain why we're here today.
Welcome to Camasunri Bay that sits at the base of the Black Coolin on the Isle of Skye. Camasunri Bay faces into the prevailing southwest wind, and in the winter the gales bring in tons of flotsam that ruins this beautiful place. Here's some of the fishing plastic that's washed in regularly. You can see the crates in which the fish are put. Barrels which are usually full of feed. The green can is a fuel can for fuel that's just been tipped over the side when empty. You see there are quite a lot of those. Well, it looks like there's a bit of a car or a fender here. And then that's a polystyrene from a float, a bucket, another bucket, and plastic bags, and a plastic bottle there, which is obviously domestic waste. But most of this stuff is, as you can see, is fishing waste. Here's one of the piled waiting collection by the boat. As you can see, the rubbish is mainly fishing crates and rope and cartons rather than domestic rubbish. Whilst the large items are easy to remove, the small items remain. Bits of rope, bottle tops, string, litter the beach and require hours and hours of volunteer work to remove. Each summer, kind volunteers come to Camasunri Bay to clear the rubbish and put it in piles and net it, awaiting collection by a boat to be delivered to Elgol, from where it is skipped and disposed of by the Highland Council. Last year, 2.5 tonnes of rubbish was removed from Camasunri Beach, and this year the total is likely to be the same. So it's thanks to the volunteers that we're able to keep the beach clean each year, but the problem remains: there's too much fishing plastics deposited in our seas.
Well, big thank you to Rabbi Judith Rosenberry. And this was just a very tiny little amount of conservation work which is happening around the world. And I'm sure you all watched many films which shows a much greater magnitude of this problem around the world in different areas. So it does affect all of us. And as I've learned from our Sunday Hub teacher, Emily Sinclair, the other week, that each of us consumes the amount of credit card plastic per year, each of us. It's in the fish, it's in the water, it's sometimes in the food which we eat. So the problem is not only people who live on those islands and get all the rubbish. The problem now is of each of us to deal with. Now I would like to invite our lovely children, and I call all children only those people who have not had their bar bat mitzvah. Then I will call you young person. Until then, you're a child, I'm afraid. So I would like to invite Hayden, Sammy, and Isla to come up here on the bima.
Urgent problems. Climate change is a problem which is getting worse every day, and it causes temperatures globally to rise. Rising temperatures cause the ice to melt. Sea levels will begin to rise, so floods will occur, and people may have to abandon their homes. Animals will also lose their homes and become extinct, which is very bad for the planet. Solutions. Trees help by absorbing carbon dioxide, and this will slow down global warming. Therefore, in popular and busy areas, there should be trees planted around the cities. Cities should have green open areas where animals such as hedgehogs, squirrels, and badgers, birds can roam around. Solar panels should be used in warmer climates and even in deserts. We need alternative solutions to oil as it produces pollution, which is bad for the environment. To save energy, we can turn off lights and plugs when they are not being used. Hang clothes out to dry and not use the tumble dryer. Try not to use cars and walk.
Don't throw plastic in the sea. It could kill sea creatures.
Don't throw plastic into the sea. It would kill. Oh, thank you very much, Isla. Did you hear? So Sam said, don't throw plastic into the sea. It could kill sea creatures. That was from Sammy. And Isla said, if you have a plastic bag, make sure it doesn't end up in the sea. Because animals can choke on it. Reuse your shopping bags. Thank you very much, Isla. I definitely will be reusing my bags and will continue. Thank you very much. Power to children, and we'll sort out the world, I promise you. We continue now with Ishtabach on page 135. 135. Please stand. Ishtabach Shemcha Lat Malkenu Ha'el HaMelech Gadol VaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Lechonai Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avoteinu Shiru Shvacha Alel Ve'Zimra Barachat Ve'Odaot Mata Ve'ad Olam Baruch Ata Adonai Abocher B'Shirei Zimra.
And so we come to the blessings before the Shema. And the first of these, instead of the prayer that is in the Siddur, we're going to hear a special prayer for Earth Day on the same sort of theme.
Today for us is a new day on earth. Let us live it in awe and wonder how everything works. Should the trees cease to grow? Should the sun cease to glow? Should our hearts cease to beat? We thank you again and again that our world is complete. I can think, I can breathe, I can hope, I can sneeze, I can laugh, I can cry, I can pray for the wonder each day, for the strength come what may, for the power to say, blessed are you, God, who has formed humanity with wisdom and commanded us to be stewards of the earth.
Thank you, Alice. And we continue together. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla Gedola V'Terach Hamalta Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avur Avotenu Shebatachu V'cha V'Talamdeinu Chukei Chayim Kein Techonenu U'Talamdeinu V'tein B'Libeinu Lahavin U'Lahaskil Lishmoa Lilmod U'Lelamed Lishmor V'La'asot U'Lekayim Et Kol Divrei Toratecha Ba'ahava V'Ha'er Einenu B'Toratecha V'Dabek Libeinu B'Mitzvotecha V'Yached Levavenu La'ahava U'Liyira Et Shemecha Kivanu V'Charta Li'achedecha Ba'ahava Baruch Ata Adonai Habocher Ba'amo Yisrael Ba'ahava. Join together in reciting the opening line of the Shema, and then we'll sing the first two lines together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is our God, the Eternal God is one. We read together in Hebrew and then in English. Va'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol ma'otecha. V'hayu advarim ha'eleh, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובגוריך, וקשרת מלאכות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You shall love the Eternal One your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Let these words which I command you this day be always in your hearts. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be like frontlets between your eyes. Inscribe them on the doors of your house and on your gates. And as our ark is closed, instead of singing Lamantis Guru, which ends the Shema, in just a moment, a few seconds, we're going to hear an alternative passage for what will be the second paragraph of the Shema that isn't in our liturgy. And Miriam is going to read this for us. Do please be seated.
And if you listen closely to the meaning behind the words in your tradition, you will love the source of life and give yourself over completely, heart and soul, to serve life itself. Imagine a world with the rains and snows coming when they are due, where everyone can plant and harvest the abundance of the earth, where animals and wildlife have enough to nourish themselves, and you too can eat and be satiated. Watch yourselves, though, from following other ways, paths of greed and entitlement, stripping the land of its soil, warming the oceans, causing hurricanes and floods, droughts and fires, such that the heavens are stopped up and the earth becomes a wasteland. And you yourselves have lost your way and forfeited the goodness of the earth that God gave you. So put these words on your tongue and in your hearts, and keep them close, like a sign upon your arms and between your eyes, teaching them to the next generation to abide by them, at home and away, day and night. Let these teachings be a watchword for your homes and gates and cities, that you may live long on this planet, for all the days of heaven and earth.
Thank you, Miriam. And as we come to this passage on redemption, we join with the rejoicing of Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together. And we add to it our prayers that we may contribute to the redemption of our world as we sing Mi Chamocha on page 139. Dale?
Amidah, standing prayer. On page 140, I would like to invite the next generation of our young people to speak. I would like to invite here Louis, Benji, and Maxwell.
Stand a little lower then they are closer to the microphone. Stand a little lower. Okay, lovely, thank you. Stand next to each other.
Okay. I'm speaking to you today about our environment and ways we can save it. To think about how climate change is impacting our everyday lives. Over the summer, we've seen a volcano that was dormant for 50 years on the island of La Palma that is still erupting 7 weeks later, causing devastation to the environment and people's lives. We've seen floods in Germany, droughts in Australia, Africa, and Asia, and the hottest temperatures on record this year. We must change to protect our environment. We can all do this in our everyday lives. We should all reduce our electricity usage. How many of us use solar panels? We must stop drilling for so much oil as it is destroying our oceans and planet. Is every journey in your car really necessary? Consider lowering the production of consumption of meat. Should we try and eat one meal of plant-based food every week? We should all be doing more environmentally friendly and recycle more. If you want the best the world has to offer the world your best.
Every time you cut down a tree, plant another one.
Oh, almost like ELELS or Shabbat.
Plant trees, flowers, and herbs to encourage bugs and insects.
Amen. To that. Thank you very much. Well done. And now we continue with those positive thoughts and encouragement. Thank you very much. You can take a seat. We'll continue with Amidah on page 140. Please stand.
Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya la 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 Svatai Tivtach. Ya la 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilateh. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. And we're going to read now an alternative version of the third blessing of the Amidah, all about holiness. All living are one and holy. Let us remember as we eat, as we work, as we walk and drive. All living are one and holy. We must make ourselves worthy. We must act out justice and mercy and healing as the sun rises and as the sun sets, as the moon rises and the stars wheel above us. We must repair goodness. We must praise the power of the one that joins us. Whether we plunge in or thrust ourselves far out, finally we reach the face of glory too bright for our eyes, and yet we burn and give light. We will try to be holy. We will try to repair the world given to us to hand on. Precious is this treasure of words and knowledge and deeds that moves inside us. Holy is the hand that works for peace and for justice. Holy is the mouth that speaks for goodness. Holy is the foot that walks towards mercy. Let us lift each other on our shoulders and carry each other along. Let holiness move in us. Let us pay attention to its small voice. Let us see the light in others and honor that light. Remember the dead who paid our way here dearly, dearly. And remember the unborn for whom we build our houses. Praise the light that shines before us, through us, after us. Amen. And we continue with the final two blessings of the Amidah on page 144. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu. Shalom tova ubracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha u'lacha na'el hodot. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Baruch atah Adonai osei hashalom. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Please be seated, everyone. We're just going to take a few moments now for silent meditation. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol bnei Adam. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol bnei Adam.
And now we continue with the Torah service on page 481. 481.
En kamocha Elohim Adonai en avaskecha avudcha avud kol olamim en shavcha b'chol doron. Adonai melech,
Please stand. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo. Gadol Adonai Tzid, u'neroma Shemo Yamda. Lecha Adonai, Adonai. seated. And while the Torah is being carried up here on the bima, I will invite Rabbi Rachel to do a drosha, because today we've got a very special call-up, and the call-up will go all the way to Nottingham. But before we'll do that, Rabbi Rachel will tell you all about our parashat for today, Parashat Toldot, Generations, or another one translation is Chronicles.
Thank you, Tanya. So as Tanya has said, our parasha is Toldot, which is from the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 19 through to 28, verse 10. And the word Toldot comes from the verb yalad, to give birth. So it means begettings or generations. And 3 generations are mentioned right at the beginning of the parasha: Abraham, Isaac, and the twins Esau and Jacob, who were born to Isaac and Rebekah. And in fact, D.Y. David Yehuda last night linked that whole story of the twins struggling in the womb with the willingness of people to share the land. And if you didn't hear that, I'm sure it's going to be available, isn't it? So yes, so I would recommend you listening to his Dvar Torah about that. We learn that Jacob and Esau are very different characters. And we witness Jacob wresting the firstborn birthright from Esau. And then, following his mother's instructions, Jacob pretends to be his older brother and receives from his father the firstborn blessing, entitling him to inherit the wealth of his father. When Esau realizes what has been taken from him, he is angry enough to want to kill Jacob, who flees to Haran to his uncle Laban. Well, that's a very well-known story, of course, but this morning I'm going to be reading a less familiar section. A famine occurs in the land, and Isaac settles in Gerar with the agreement of Avimelech, the king of the Philistines. Isaac becomes prosperous, and he rather outlives his welcome there. He moves on, and eventually he settles in Beersheba. On his way, he redigs the wells that had been dug in the time of Abraham, and they become a source of contention with the Philistines, who had stopped up the wells and who now claim the water for themselves. And this is the section that I'm going to be reading, which is from chapter 26, verses 12 to 22. We thought this would be an appropriate passage for Eco Shabbat. Much of the Torah can be understood in an allegorical sense, and this parasha is no exception. And indeed, I remember my father many years ago talking to me about Jacob and Esau perhaps being 2 different aspects of our own personalities and characters. Here, we read about the importance of water in granting life for people, animals, and land. We read about the natural resources of the land. And we can perhaps learn from this text how important it is to not destroy those resources, and how essential it is to share them and maintain them responsibly for each other and for future generations. Indeed, the title of the parasha, Toldot, Generations, reminds us to be vigilant about what we bequeath to our children and to the future. And a beautiful, sustainable, healthy world is where our focus is now, especially on this Eco Shabbat.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Rachel. And now we are moving all the way to Nottingham for a call-up. And I think one of the beautiful links is about intergenerational concept of young children, our children, inheriting our lives, our planet, and continuing. So before I will call up the president of Nottingham Liberal Synagogue, Peter Gordon, he also one of the chairs of Eco Group in Nottingham. And Nottingham is only one of 2 communities who received a bronze award from Eco Synagogue by completing its audit. So I would like to congratulate Peter and the whole Eco Group of Nottingham Liberal Synagogue for punching above your weight and being so strong on environmental issues as well. We are very proud of you. But before we'll call him up as an honor for our Eco Shabbat, I would like to ask 2 young members of Nottingham Liberal Synagogue to do their reading, to make their voice heard. One is Mia Sugarman and another one is Emma Atkinson. And Emma Atkinson happened to be Peter Gordon's youngest granddaughter. Mia and Emma, we are here for you. Almost said that. Everywhere, we're everywhere for you. We can see Peter, or we can see neither Emma nor Mia. You know why? Because it's my fault, because I didn't tell Leo that they're going to be seen. Sorry, Leo, goes from the heaven. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Go on. You're on now because we can't find Mia yet.
Okay. Good morning and Shabbat Shalom. I'm here to talk to you about my school's eco committee and the good work we do for the environment. The first of these is the creation of eco bricks. For those who do not know, an eco brick is a bottle full of rubbish. With these, we are going to create furniture for the whole school to utilise. I feel this is important as it is saving materials from being used on this furniture, so said materials can be used elsewhere. Another thing we do in school is creating plant pots out of empty drinks bottles. A lot of the things that you throw in the recycling bin never end up getting recycled, with 91% ending up in our seas and elsewhere. However, we aim to reduce this by creating plant pots to make our school look nicer and more colourful, while also making sure these bottles do not end up in our seas and are used. I feel this is important as I want to protect as many sea creatures as possible, including my favourite, dolphins. The third and final thing we do as an eco committee, which I'll talk to you about today, is the number of signs we created. These signs remind pupils and teachers alike to turn off the light when exiting the classroom, and we put them up around the entire school. This reduces the amount of energy the school uses while also reducing carbon emissions and other harmful greenhouse gases. This is important as without this, climate change will increasingly become worse, and none of us want that. While I understand that the work we do as an eco committee is small, I know that I'm playing my part in saving the environment. Thank you for listening.
Go on, Mia, you can do it.
Speak. Come on, you can do it. Just talk. You're talking to me.
Mia, it's okay to be shy. I'm shy as well, all these years. But what can you do?
I help my mum and dad with recycling. We always give our old clothes to charities so they can be used again. We grow flowers to encourage the bees, and we always switch off and unplug our electrical things. Last bit. Go on, last bit. Go on, do the last bit. We think the environment and the planet are so important, and we want to help make it better.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Mia. Well done. Thank you so much for being so brave and sharing this with us. I know that it took a lot of
Close the door.
We appreciate that. And I would like to call Peter Gordon up to the Torah. Ya'amod David ben Chaim lekriyat haTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chabonu mikol ha'amim, v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Vayizra Yitzchak, בארץ ההיא, וימצא בשנה ההיא 100 שערים, ויברכהו אדוני. ויגדל האיש, וילך הלוך וגדל, עד כי גדל מאוד. ויהי לו מקנה צאן ומקנה בקר, ועבודה רבה. ויקנאו אותו פלישתים. בכל הבארות אשר חפרו עבדי אביו בימי אברהם אביו, סיתמום פלישתים, וימלאום עפר. ויאמר אבימלך אל יצחק, לך מעמנו, כי עצמת ממנו מאוד. וילך משם יצחק, ויחן בנחל גרר, וישב שם. וישוב יצחק, ויחפור את בארות המים אשר חפרו בימי אברהם אביו, ויסתמום פלישתים אחרי מות אברהם. ויקרא להן שמות כשמות אשר קרא להן אביו, ויחפרו עבדי יצחק בנחל, וימצאו שם באר מים חיים. ויריבו רועי גרר עם רועי יצחק לאמור, לנו המים. ויקרא שם הבאר עסק, כי התעסקו עמו. ויחפרו באר אחרת, ויריבו גם עליה, ויקרא שמה שטנה. ויעתק משם ויחפור באר אחרת, ולא רבו עליה, ויקרא שמה רחובות. ויאמר כי עתה הרחיב אדוני לנו, ופרינו בארץ. And Isaac sowed in that land, and in that year he increased 100-fold, and that Mea She'arim, 100-fold, you probably recognize as a very ultra-Orthodox quarter of Jerusalem, the name of that. And the Eternal One blessed him. And the man, which is a very strange way of referring to Isaac, the man increased and grew more and more rich until he was very rich indeed. And he had flock, he had sheep, and he had cattle, and a large household. And the Philistines became jealous of him. And all of the wells that the servants of his father had dug in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines stopped them up, and they filled them with dust or with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you have become much too big for us, or you have become much bigger than we are." And so he went away. So Isaac went from them, and he camped in the Wadi Gerar, and he dwelt there. And then Isaac again dug the wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, that had been stopped up by the Philistines after the death of Abraham. And he gave them the same names that they had been called by his father. And the servants of Isaac dug in the wadi, and they found there a well of living waters. And the shepherds of Gerar argued with Isaac's shepherds, saying, "That water is ours." And they called the name of that well Esek, which means contention or argument, because they argued with him there. And so they dug another well, and they argued about that one as well. And so they called the name of that one Sitnah. Sitnah has something to do with hostility or animosity. And actually it's the same root as the word Satan, which is known in English as Satan, who is very different in Jewish literature. In Judaism, Satan is an adversary. So it's an adversarial name. And so Isaac then went away from there and dug another well, and they didn't argue over that one. And he called the name of that one Rehovot, which means wide or broad spaces. And he said, because now the Eternal One has given me ample space that I may prosper in the land.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher notan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Please stand. Baruch Shabbat Torah. Baruch Shabbat Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Please be seated. A well-deserved chair's position. You can leave the Torah. That's the test. Okay, and for Haftorah, you'll be pleased to know, maybe, we prepared something different. It's going to be an eco Haftorah, and 3 rabbis will be doing it together. Rabbi Richard, Rabbi Rachel, and me. I'm playing Italy, the role of Adam, the first man. I said that for my interesting accent, that's just the right role of asking just one sentence. I'm ready for it.
And Richard is going to be the narrator, and I'm going to be God. What can I say?
Typecasting.
So Leo, if you don't mind putting up, and God braided Eve's hair. It's a very beautiful poem by Danny Siegel that's based on Ecclesiastes Rabbah, a text from there.
Adam was just a few hours old, and the world not much more, when God took the man by the hand and said,
Come, my friend, let us walk around before the sun goes down and hides the shades and colours of the garden.
So Adam walked with God, a bright red and blue macaw perched on his shoulder.
Here, my friend,
Said God,
is a stream of goldfish and cod and music to enjoy in the evenings. Here the squirrels sit on my maple trees playing children's games.
What are children, my God?
Come, friend, sit here by the canyon's edge and watch the rhythms I have taught the swooping eagle. Is it not beautiful, the way she hunts the mice and the prairie dogs? If you wish, I will call her here. You may pet her and speak with the Queen of Heaven without fear. Shoshana, Shoshana, come here. Come meet my boy Adam.
and riding the clouds and breeze, Shoshana the eagle glides to Adam's side and rests her head in his hands. The 4 of them rest, Shoshana's eyes half closed, the macaw repeating God's words, watch the rhythms I have taught the swooping eagle. Adam rubs his seeing eyes and God says,
It's so very nice here.
The sun sinks behind the canyon walls and the blue overhead turns orange and then red and then dull grey, bringing on a twilight silence that falls gently and smooth as the sands in a glass. The evening chills, and God calls a tiger from a distant thicket to lie at Adam's feet, covering and warming his legs.
Adam, my child of wonder.
The Holy One says, stroking the cat's ear.
Adam, all this is my gift to you. Take care of Shoshana and the stream. Treat my roses well now and forever. And I will teach you the conversation of the grass and the wind. I will give you the keys to the storehouse of snow. I will take you for walks at dawn and show your hands how to awaken the pines and the deer. We will live long together in our garden. Now sleep, now dream. Now think of tomorrow and all life's surprises.
And God braided Eve's hair.
Thank you, Richard and Tanya. And Leo, we're going to go on to the next page now. And Joseph is going to sing for us a song which is also based on a line from Ecclesiastes Rabbah, which basically says, take care that you don't damage the world, because after you there will be no one to repair it.
Song by Yoshi Silverstein, a contemporary American Jewish composer, and we're grateful for his brilliant performance today.
Listen here, why can't you see? The storm is here surrounding me. It's hard to breathe, it's hard to hear. Violets burn, smoke fills the air. The home we knew is barely there. Take the heart, shallow to Rakel, Tahari, et olam. Sheim kilkata, emi shetaken, acharecha. The rains they fall and soak the ground. The water rises all around. What can I do? It's not on me. It's all so big, impossibly. I'm trying to hear, but I can't see. Take that heart, shallow to Rakel, Tahari, et olami. Jehim kilkata, emi shetaken, acharecha. If we truly learn to hear, if gracefully share without fear, open our heart, open our souls, let her take hold. Let us be bold. Take the shelo to Bakel Tahari et olam. Sheim kilkata emi shetaken acharecha.
And now we're pushing the Torah scroll back in the ark. It's still here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many young people here, and it's wonderful to see their parents with you as well, because this is the idea, this is the situation. I don't want to have a problem, which actually brings us all together. We are all in it together, and I'll explain to you why. So, Rabbis Rachel and Richard asked me to speak today about my COP26 experience. After us not being able to get hold of our original speaker from the Jewish organization called Chazon, meaning vision. It is a Jewish lab for sustainability. Please Google them, worth checking. So I am a second choice, but it is because Rabbis Rachel and Richard didn't know what they would be missing. The reason I ended up going to the COP26 conference was because of the Eco Synagogue applying to have an official presence and a stall there. To be honest, we didn't expect to get anywhere, because while we were applying to get our place at COP26 conference, there were another 4,000 organizations and the process of application as well. So when, to our great surprise, we received the invitation, as well as allocated stall, which was like a miracle, there was no doubt that the 4 Eco Synagogue rabbis would attend. As I have been asked numerous times, and I've received this public platform to confirm it publicly, I would like to say that the 2 rabbis went by train, and 2 other rabbis went by electric cars, shared. Only because we don't have private jet like Boris Johnson. Was the experience worth it? It definitely was. The whole conference experience for me was very disappointing and very inspirational at the same time. For example, I was really disappointed with the current budget, which was released just before the conference, and its support for fossil fuel industries. I was disappointed to learn that our own Prime Minister went to the conference by private jet. You might say that I was jealous, but I think there is a bigger point to make. I was disappointed to see so few plant-based food options available at the conference, and them not being particularly tasty either. I was disappointed to realize that the blue zone, where all the politicians were, was far away from the green zone, where we, civic society, all the charities who, she says with a very deep sense of modesty, doing the actual work on the ground. So it was very difficult for people who make decisions to reach those people who do the work on the ground, who walk the walk, because it would took them, and some of them did make that effort, took them a long time to get to where we were and vice versa. But at the same time, my spirits were lifted and I was inspired by the many grassroots organizations I encountered at the conference. I learned about so many places which have been affected now by years of climate change, people's greed, and as a result of it, poverty. Places in South America and South Pacific suffering from lack of water, fires, at the same time devastating natural calamities like tsunamis. I have learned about national parks like the one in Ghana called Atewa. The real treasures of any country being destroyed or sold, even though millions of local people's livelihoods depend on it. I have learned about injustice and poverty caused by climate change and how it affects so many parts of the world right now. I have also learned and met some amazing and inspirational people who care, who are proactive, and are out there to stop the destruction, abuse of natural resources, and waste. None of those people were politicians, unfortunately. Most of them were people of faith or lovers of nature. I love the Queen mentioning her late husband, Prince Philip, speech delivered all the way back in, do you remember, in 1969, when he was at the academic gathering, talking about the level of pollution already back then, and saying that if we did address this problem, all the other problems would pale into insignificance. 1969. And here we are, 52 years later, and dealing with much worse consequences of the pollution, waste, destruction, disconnection between us, the humans, and the global time of media rain, which affects our young people's mental health the most. Another speech which I listened to with admiration was David Attenborough. You have to listen to it. I don't even want to quote from it. But what was really important for me, it was the message of hope which he gave, not the message of fear. And fear it is. That's how we live our lives. We're feared of other people. We're feared of anti-Semitism. We're feared of tomorrow. We're feared of losing our jobs. It's very difficult to change our mindset. And that's what Chief Rabbi Mervis was talking about. Ephraim Mervis was talking about in one of the panels which I attended. It was about challenging our mindsets. If the current crisis can teach us anything, it is to reconnect to the natural world around us. That's exactly what we're trying to do in our Sunday Hub, and cooperate, work together. The reason, I got involved, and I will be honest with you now, I've got this platform. I will be honest, I might be controversial, but you'll have to accept my honesty. The reason I got involved, it was just before COVID. I was the one in not denial of the COVID, but the one who had no fear of it. I organized a concert just before we went to the lockdown. It's coming here as well. We called the People's Concert. Nottingham knows that. My passion, bringing people of different faith, most talented people, professional, amateurs, and celebrating it together. Bringing people to synagogue who people of faith, no faith. I was bringing people from Belarus, most talented young girls who've been, recognized around the world. It was one of the best. And I wasn't going to cancel it. And I remember 2 weeks before the lockdown, when it all started happening, and there were news coming from Italy, sitting with two of my friends, One of my friends is the professor at Nottingham University, and another friend runs a big NHS organization. And both of them said to me, we're only weeks behind Italy. It's all happening now. And both suggested that I cancel the concert. It's not going to go ahead. It was difficult for me to cancel it because there were people around. Nothing changed. We got all the news. We were bombarded with the news, but who really believes what's happening, in the news? We knew what was happening in Italy, but it was far away. It didn't affect me personally. The flights were coming from Italy until after the lockdown, so it was okay. Well, you're talking about all the bad numbers and COVID and spreading. I can't see that spreading around me. But I did believe the professionals. And I did cancel my baby, the concert, which I worked really, really hard to put on. And indeed, 2 weeks later, what did happen? The lockdown. I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson to believe the professionals, to believe the facts. And it's very difficult. I find it fascinating today to see people who are still in denial of the climate change. I'm not suggesting that it's only climate change. Climate change is such a big word which tells nothing. Because here in the UK, we're not affected as greatly as around the world. But what it means to me, it means pollution. You can't deny all the plastic which is all over the place. You can't deny the waste, which is unbelievable. It is now 11.6 million tons of food we're wasting every year just in this small, tiny country in comparison with other countries. And we are down from what it used to be. Sorry, 4.5 million tons, which was down from 11.6. You can't deny the animals' extinction because we've got facts. But it's a choice. Each of us have a choice. Like I was in denial, COVID was happening, whether I believed in it or not. It was up to me to face the facts and to become proactive about it or not to. And each of us make the choice on a daily basis. People choose to believe in God, a concept which cannot be proved. But when we have facts confirmed, people still choose to be in denial. And that's very difficult for me to understand. I'm passionate about it, not because it affects me personally. It might not even affect my child generation, but it's definitely happening. And to be in denial, it means to deny the future for human beings and for the planet. And it's not about the climate change alone. It's about our attitudes. It's about the way we use and abuse the world around us. What change we are prepared to make? We'll talk about it. And I'm gladly talking about you. But can you stop using plastic? Can you reduce the meat consumption or stop eating it? Can you take walks rather than drives, particularly when you're in a rush? Can you use less hot water? That was the hardest for me when I was going around the stalls, and I went to one stall and there was one of the options. Do you promise to wash your hands in cold water? I was like, no. And then I thought about it. That was my initial reaction. And I became an eco-warrior now, and I'm very proud of it, because I don't want to be in denial. But it's about working together as well. A history was made at the COP26 conference. I can't talk about it because I promised. But you know what was fascinating for me to realize? That many more people are prepared to cooperate and work together. This is our opportunity, not only as Jewish community, as humanity, to come together. This is the test, not only for the planet, but also for us as humans. Fear often comes first. Fear often divides us as people of different faith, different communities, different countries. What about cooperation? What about working together? We can do whatever we want about the climate change, but if China or India do not come aboard, or Russia on that matter, there is very little change we can implement. This is the time in our human history when we all have to come together and make small steps leading to great changes. Sometimes I feel like giving up on older people. What do they know anyway about life? But I look in hope to our young people, who I'm so proud of today. I would like to finish with a quote from Kohelet Rabbah, from Midrash Kohelet Rabbah, one of most favorite, I think, of all the rabbis. And this is the message to all of us. This Midrash, our young people, I would like to tell you, this Midrash was written thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, the rabbis told us this. Listen, look at my works. See how beautiful they are. How excellent. For your sake, I created them all. See to it that you do not spoil and destroy my world. Because if you do, there will be no one to repair it after you. Shabbat Shalom. Now we continue with the conclusion part of our service, and I would like to invite Rabbi Richard.
I'm sure will agree with me that you were never second choice.
No, it was a joke. We were planning the service together, so I hope you all understood that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
We are on page 520 in the Siddur for the Aleinu. Thank you, Tanya, for those inspirational words that we take forward, all of us, with the first word, Aleinu. It is upon us. It is up to us. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atrin gedula liyotzeh b'reishit, asher samtel keinu li'ached et shemo, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום להשב אותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. And instead of continuing on page 521, we will hear Judy Chicago's passage, which can be found if you wish to follow it on page 213 in the Siddur. I think it may come up on screen.
And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied, and then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many, and then all will share equally in the earth's abundance, and then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old, and then all will nourish the young, and then all will cherish life's creatures, and then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth, and then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Thank you, Helen. And so we conclude with the aspirational Ayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. On page 522, we read words from George Eliot, words which remind us that her statement is not only true for the past, but true for what we will make of the future. We can ensure that the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, not just those that have been done in generations before, but our actions that won't make newspaper headlines, but can help to serve to make the world a better place for the future. But we remember now that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been, and that is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life and who rest in unvisited tombs. Even when they are gone, the departed are with us. They inspire us to live as in their higher moments they themselves sought to live. We remember them now. And after I've mentioned some of the names in our community, I'll pass across so that Rabbis Rachel and Tanya can mention the names for their two communities before we move ahead to Kaddish on page 524. And so here in ELELS, we remember Derek Richter, Ashley Marks, and Harvey Ben Susan, whose deaths occurred within the last 30 days. And we also join in remembering the following people on the occasion of their yahrzeit: Adrian Joseph, Albert Conn, Jeremiah Gilade, Claire Arbis, David Rosen, Leah Gold, Judith Nissenbaum, Vitali Imbritsky, Morris Richter, and Mona Howard. Let me pass across now.
So at Mosaic Liberal, we remember on the occasion of their yahrzeits, Marilyn Finley, the mother of Joseph, Jack Fryman, the father of Francis Spiegel and the grandfather of Sarah Spiegel, Stanley Jacobs, the husband of Barbara Jacobs, Norman Kay, friend of Lindsay Cohen, John Landau, the husband of Maria Landau, David Pannell, the husband of Elaine Pannell, and Lillian Solomon, the mother of Aubrey Scott.
At the Liberal Synagogue Elstree, we remember Victor Amswich, father of Rebecca Davy and Donna Friedman, Zichrono Livracha. And we remember Trevor Gilbert, who passed away on Wednesday, husband of Helen and father of Juliet, Laura, and Michelle, grandfather of Alice, Aaron, Alex, and Harriet. Hanoch ben Abraham, Zichrono Livracha, let his memory be for a blessing, and we'll send our best wishes and wish a long life to the family. Zichronam Livracha, let the memory of all the Yosef people we remember today be a blessing.
And so we say and we join with all those who are remembering loved ones, the words of the Kaddish on page 524. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbav, v'alma divrach v'kutei v'yamlich ma'kutei, v'chayekom v'yomechom, v'chayedochol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yiru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbav barach la'olam v'amei amayim. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitala v'yichomam v'yinaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kedusha v'yichu. Le'ela v'yitkol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechemata, la'miran v'alma v'yiru, amen. Yehi shalom ha'rabba v'yishmael, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yiru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'yimru, amen. And our concluding song for this service is a relevant and special one chosen by Rachel, Rabbi Rachel, and she and Joseph will lead us in the singing of The Tide is Rising.
And this is a song by Rabbi Shoshana Meira Friedman and Yotam Shachter, and it's really spread amongst the climate movement in the last few years. The key words you need to know is "and so are we." That keeps coming back. So if you can pick it up, it's quite a simple tune. And those words, "and so are we," as the words change. But do join in as much as you can. Tide is rising. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. And so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. It's holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we.
That's like a yay! That was a very positive thought. Thank you very much. And we would like to finish our service with young people saying the last word. I would like to invite James and Alice to come up here on the bima.
The urgency of climate change is massive, and if we don't do anything about it, there will be more storms, higher levels of CO2 in the air, which will cause temperatures to rise rapidly. This will cause the ice to melt at the poles, to melt and sea levels to rise. This will create more floods and endanger more of the world's population. What we can do to prevent this is to live more sustainably by using paper straws, reusable shopping bags and water bottles, not wasting food, eating less meat, switching to plant-based meals and reusing and recycling whenever we possibly can. We should be using hard soap instead of soap and plastic bottles. We should try to switch to electric or hybrid cars or make trips by train or other public transport. Don't make unnecessary journeys and share lifts when we can. We should try to use less water and buy more environmentally friendly products and shop in places where you can use your own containers. We need to do what we can as individuals and as a community to fix this problem now, both for ourselves and for future generations, to protect this beautiful yet fragile planet.
Hello, today I'd like to express my opinions on an eco-synagogue. Firstly, I'd like to talk about how crucial it is for the Jewish community to respect the planet, not just because we want to preserve it for the future generation, my generation, but also to prove ourselves as a role model community and lead by example. It is also important to acknowledge what we are doing as a synagogue for the planet and to encourage others to join us and help with this huge commitment to be a green community. You may be thinking, what can I do to help? Well, here are some examples. Number 1, try to cut down on the amount of meat and dairy you consume, as that is probably one of the biggest issues that links to greenhouse gases and deforestation, which is bad for the environment. Number 2, attempt to go plastic-free for 1 week. By 2050, it is estimated that there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. That is due to huge truckloads of plastic dumped into the sea every minute. So even though some of your items on your shopping list may be £1 or £2 more expensive, if it's biodegradable, think of it as an investment to save the planet. You can do some research to find some biodegradable, plastic-free, everyday items to buy. Number 3, drive less, walk more. This has several advantages. It encourages exercise, which is good for your mental and physical health. It doesn't release toxic fumes into the atmosphere, which creates smog. And next time you're thinking of buying a car, try to go for an electric car. And lastly, number 4, be creative. Think of new ways of doing things that don't pollute the planet and try to motivate others to do the same. For example, if you're in the supermarket, ask the shop manager why they don't have a plastic-free option, and if they do, buy that instead. As I said before, it is an investment to saving the planet. Campaign to make small changes in your local area. Tikkun Olam means repair the world, and it's what we need to do right now. To summarize my message is this quote: we can only do so much as individuals, but together we can achieve the unachievable. Thank you.
Can we give a round of applause to all young people in TLSE and Nottingham? You are our future. Thank you. And we will finish the service with a blessing.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
Isa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lahem lecha lano shalom. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom to Nottingham community. Shabbat Shalom to ELELS community. And I would like to thank my wonderful colleagues, Rabbi Richard Jacobi and Rabbi Rachel Benjamin. Really enjoyed working with them together. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful to have such a wonderful support from you all. Have a restful and a green eco Shabbat. Let's make every Shabbat an eco Shabbat and every day an eco day. And eco-friendly Kiddush at TLSE. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Leo.
Bye-bye. Big thank you to Leo and Andy. Kiddush, sorry. Yes, I forgot.
Richard's leading us in
Okay.
Kiddush.
Richard, sorry, my fault. I almost finished. Big thank you to Leo and Andy for doing all the tech stuff and all the tech people in the local communities. I forgot about Kiddush, which Rabbi Richard is doing. So guys, just shh. No schmoozing just yet. Just not
All
yet.
right.
Rabbi Richard.
So for everyone in all our communities and our synagogues and our homes, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'Kodsho, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, עוד תהילי עולם. ששת ימים עשנו את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. Al Kain Berach Adonai Elohim HaShabbat v'yikadshehu. Therefore the Eternal One blessed the Sabbath day and called it holy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim to everyone. And finally, reaching out to all the synagogues and the households. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Now it's schmoozing